Welcome to everyone. Welcome in Bertani. Thank you to all to participate at this lovely tasting. I try to be very friendly. I'm a winemaker, but I like to speak about wine also sometimes in a different way. We start with something that is classic from where we are. We are in Verona, we are in Valpolicella, we are in Valpantena. But first of all, we are Venetian. And in Veneto, you can only start the tasting by a beautiful, crispy, crunchy Pinot Grigio. Today we are tasting Pinot Grigio Velante, the last vintage, 2019. We are approaching just in a few weeks to the final fermentation of 2020, but 2020 is not yet ready and to be on the market next year. But what we need to speak about Pinot Grigio. First of all, we have to realize what is Pinot Grigio. Pinot Grigio is a mix of a white grape variety and red grape variety. Actually, it's grape. In Veneto, or let's say in the Tre Venezie, that is the best way to explain the area of Pinot Grigio, you can have different areas. You have the Trentino Alto Adige, you have the Valley of Adige, where actually you can find some Pinot Grigio that are a little bit more crunchy and saline due to the related reason of the type of soil. And after that, you have the Venetian part around Verona, Treviso, Vicenza, where actually is what most of the, let's say, the commodities Pinot Grigio come from. A few years ago, we decided to make a change inside our Pinot Grigio production, and we decided to be located in one of the best areas for Pinot Grigio in the Tre Venezie, so in the three most important regions in the Venetian land of Pinot Grigio. And so we landed in Friuli. We're actually in next to Isonzo area, but our appellation of Pinot Grigio is Friuli. We decided to focus our production. There was some reason because we decided to go. First of all, the profile of the Pinot Grigio that we want to make. We like a Pinot Grigio that is ripe, that is with stone fruit and apricot on the nose, but on the same time it has a richness and oiliness in the mid palate. But it keeps also in the meantime a saline character. So the Pinot Grigio that can work perfectly as an aperitivo, but on the same time a Pinot Grigio that can work also perfectly during a lunch. In order of that, we decided to not only to be focused in that area, but also to invest. And so that is the reason, because today we have a winery, but we have also, so we have a custom facility where we can crush, press, and ferment there. And we have also, we own vineyards. And almost 40 hectares of land planted in all Guyot trailing system, double Guyot, the classical a bio of double Guyot, similar to what you can find a lot of time in Alsace, where they grow some Pinot Grigio, but it's Pinot Grigio is quite different that you can have here. On the glass, it's a wine that is it's a combination of stone fruit, apricot, but on the same time, it's a wine that it has a lot of florality, typically of Friuli. And what is also special is the mouthy profile, as I told you before. It is a wine that it has this salinity character with a very nice crunchiness in the palate and a very long saline finish. Salinity is something that became more and more important, and it is something that grasped all the Bertani wines. Why salinity is very important, especially in the Venetian area? In Valpolicella, it's very important because you have some calcareous type of soil, so you have limestone with a lot of calcare inside. And in Friuli, gravels. Are very similar to what you can find in Bordeaux, the typical gravels of Bordeaux, where the Sauvignon Blanc or the Semillon keep this lovely salinity in the palate. In terms of vinification, it's a very classic, traditional type of vinification. I like to say, is a reductive type of vinification. So we go straight from the vineyard to the press. We are not destemming, so we go straight with the whole cluster into the press in order to reduce the oxidation. We jump down the temperature, we're cooling down the temperature by a cooling system before getting into the press. We go around 10 Celsius degrees, and after that we press. Only the free run juice it is used to produce this wine, and the second juice it is used to produce a lower quality of Velante. Fermented with indigenous mix of indigenous yeast and also selected yeast, because in order to have some aromaticism, some spiciness, and very clear profile of wine, we need to work with selected yeast. It is fermented with a temperature that starts around 12. We move to 14, going up to 16, and just coming back for the last part in order to have a higher character of reduction in around 14, 15. End of fermentation, the wine it is kept on lees with a few batonnage per week for at least 3-4 months. And after that, we remove from the lees. And most of the time, we start to bottle the wine just before the end of the year in order to keep the freshness. For the wine that will be bottled during the year, because you know we are talking about Pinot Grigio, so there is multiple plots of bottling. We try to maintain the wine with a little bit more lees in order to protect. Lees as a fundamental aspect are a tool in order to protect and give some reductiveness into the wine. It is a wine that, related to the fact that it is a Pinot Grigio, that is a step above from what you can find from normally from the Venetian part, so what is very commodity, because it's coming from our vineyards. There is lower yield, and there is also a special vinification, everything stainless steel, everything with special temperature control fermentation, and special attention also about sanitization. It is a wine that you can keep inside the bottle easily for 1-2 years before clearly it will start to fade. So perfect to drink right now, vintage 2019. But if you have a chance to taste 2018, it is even quite interesting with a little bit of more tertiary evolution that you can have already in a wine like that. But easily you can keep for 2 years. What is also very nice, and I think that is very important, is the packaging. The bottle is a great bottle of Bertani with an embossing that really reminded the culture and the awareness and the heritage of this lovely, beautiful, incredible brand from Verona. Label is very simple, and there is on top of the name of the grape variety, the name of the wine. It's quite difficult to speak for for a long time without any question, but that is our Velante. It's a flagship Pinot Grigio, not in the entry-level category of Pinot Grigio, but let's say mid-market entry premium quality level in the United States, and I hope that you can do only better in the future. Enjoy our Velante Pinot Grigio 2019. Grazie. And now, guys, we move from Pinot Grigio. I know that you love Pinot Grigio, but we are in Valpolicella, and we are really in Bertani. We are in the place where all the beauty of this wine come from. We are in the Valpantena Valley, because you know that Bertani, it's a winery that actually has 2 headquarters, one in Valpolicella Classica in Tenuta Novare, where we have all our vineyards, 65 hectares of vines. And after that, we have the winery in Valpantena Valley. Valpantena Valley is the only one valley, is in the extended part of Valpolicella, so out of the Classica, out of the historical part of Valpolicella. But Valpantena is the only valley right now that you can mention on the label. Probably we are working for that for the future, that every single valley will be able to put the name of the valley in the label, but right now only Verpantena can do it. 1857 is the year where the two brothers Bertani brothers start to develop this incredibly lovely brand, one of the oldest brand in Verona, with Famiglia Bolla, and after that nobody else probably. I think that they were the two leading producers for many, many years, and with an incredible story, always related to quality. This heritage and this culture for wine you can really feel inside the property. And what is unique about Bertani is what we call the Bertani style. I want also to tell you something that probably it is much more important to spend hours and hours in drinking and tell you what you can feel and what you can smell and which type of flavor you will have in your palate for the different wine that we produce. But it is a very nice statement that always I like to remember. My first day in Bertani was on 17 September of 2012. So it's almost more than 8 years, and 8 years and 1 month that I'm inside this lovely winery. And when I came on board, I really realized that if you work for Bertani, you don't make your wine, but you make the wine for Bertani. So the style is so distinctive, and so there is an incredible identity into the glass that if you really fall in love with this culture and with this culture that is typically of the most important brand that you can find all around the world. There is for sure a French feeling when you get inside, because the two brothers that founded the property and the winery, they spent some time in French, and then actually they studied in Dijon school. And so for sure they brought from France to Italy to Verona a part of this culture. I don't want to say that we are making wine as Burgundian, but for sure there is an influence, especially in the way that we like to think and we like to develop our idea about wines. You know that for Valpolicella in the last 10, 15 years was one of the largest success all around the world. Everybody from all the regions, they're very jealous about what happened in Valpolicella. And what was we were in a situation where actually there was two big rivals. One was Amarone and the second one was Ripasso. Amarone was a success almost everywhere. Ripasso was a success much more North America driven and Scandinavian driven. That are the two main markets where this wine was very successful. But there is a Venetian culture also behind our success for Ripasso. And the reason was just because we are Venetian, we are very strongly related to Marco Polo, and we were very interested in developing something that was very successful. So we adapted the style of the wine in function of what was very commercial. It was in function of the taste and the profile of the consumer. So many times, if you drink a Ripasso right now in the market, it's very juicy, it's very fruity, it's very dark. But that is a style that is made just to be successful inside the international market. Bertani, it is not something like that. Bertani always refused this opinion or this strategy to develop wines in order to fit to the target consumer. But Bertani always think that there is a specific target consumer for Bertani wines. And for that reason, they didn't change the style. So when you drink a Bertani wine, not only just because we are drinking right now a Ripasso, it's a wine that it is very classic. In some way, I like to say that it is aristocratic. It's a wine that has always a very high complexity on the nose. It's not juicy. It's juicy, but not fruity and sweety. It has a lovely pale ruby color. I like to say that when you're drinking our Ripasso, if you want to compare it, is a wine that is across Rhone Valley GSM, and a blend with some Gamay or some Pinot Noir. So you have the lovely pepper character, typically that you can have on Syrah or in GSM, but there is this lovely red cherry character that is absolutely coming from the Corvina. And there is also a sweet spices that in some way remember a little bit Pinot Noir. But in the palate, the Ripasso, it's a wine that combines also the character of Amarone. So you will tend to have some chalky tannins with lovely chocolate finish. And there is some sweetness, some dry, bitter almond character that is coming from the second fermentation of the pomace of Amarone. What is crucial and fundamental in Bertani is the way how we do Ripasso. We do Ripasso in the traditional way, so it is a real second fermentation of the pomace of Amarone, because normally we try to rack Amarone just before the fermentation is finished. So we leave in the pomace of Amarone between 30 grams per liter sugar. We jump, we rack the Amarone and we jump in top of the pomace, the fresh Valpolicella that we are just right now, it's beginning of November, it's ready. So in a few months, when we will start to crush Amarone, after that, we will jump inside the Valpolicella on the pomace. Technically, Ripasso is an incredible opportunity, especially for American market. I think that is a wine that combines two aspects. It's a wine that combines the freshness, the complexity of a Valpolicella, but it is a wine that on the nose also, as I told you before, reminds some wine that are very approachable with consumer as Côte de Duron wines. On the palate, it has the freshness of a Valpolicella, but the sweetness and the dry figs, dry cherry character that you can find in Amarone. It's quite warm, 13.5 ABV, so for Valpolicella wines is absolutely quite warm, and it is a wine that is perfectly doing a meal. I would like also to say something related to the packaging, because this is a real punch that you can have inside your face. It's really telling you that the culture and also how Bertani is very always a Bertani bottle you can recognize in a shop. So there is, on top of that, there is the recognition of the name of the brand, and second, the appellation, and that is very important to communicate to consumer who I am and what you can drink inside this bottle. But also what is important is a packaging that reminds a little bit also our icon wines that we produce, that is just behind me, the Amarone Classico, that is the king of the house, and it is also the wine that drives every day the philosophy and the style that we want to impress inside these bottles. Let's have a taste. As I told you, it's very complex. This lovely, always peppery character, white pepper, that is typical of Corvina from the coolest part of the area. Behind you have this combination of sweet red cherry with some sweet spiciness, some leather character, balsamic, that is quite difficult to translate, but it's very similar to Pinot Noir in some way. On the palate, lovely. Has a juicy entrance, but it's not sweety. It's very saline, and it has this emotion of Amarone, especially when you have on the palate. The balance of salinity with these incredible soft and silky tannins, that they are very thick into the palate, is a wine that is quite unique because it's combined lightness with thickness. And that is something that just some special region can really produce today. And another commercial tool to use today into the market. In Bertani, but not in Bertani, also for my passion for wine business, for my attention that I have to see what's going on into the market, I can see more and more some change in terms of trend of consume. And in terms of Ripasso, I see that consumers, they want to move away from the sweetness, from the juiciness, and they want to go inside the wine that is much more alive, is much vertical, is more vibrant. It has the salinity and the vibrancy that usually you can find in a red wine from just next to the Alps where we are. And so from a northern side of it, northern side part of Italy, and in a cool climate position as it is Valpolicella. So if you want to graft the market in a different way as in the past, and you want to be successful, or otherwise you can promote this wine by saying you have a Ripasso, but you have in your wine list a very modern type of Ripasso, you might probably be interested in trying something more classic. But inside this classic, there is a contemporary approach. And that is what makes Bertani today a very updated winery. Bertani is not modern, but it is very updated. And that is updated, when I'm saying that it's very updated, is coming from the contemporary style that you have inside the wine like that. A wine that is very traditional, but it is not dusty. It doesn't have any dustiness on the nose. It has, and also in the palate, it has the purity of the traditional class. You have perfectly an idea, and you can really understand that you are drinking a wine from a classical old world region, and you have this beautiful combination of lightness also here, pale ruby color, but with a lot of thickness and a lot of flavor inside. Enjoy the Ripasso, easy to pronounce, easy to remember, and again, easy to remember and to remind inside your customer also the label that reminds the traditional classic label of Amarone Classico Bertani. Enjoy. Welcome again, and we are ready to taste the last. We decided to keep for the last the history, the backbone of our identity. The wine that if we have a lunch or a dinner and we can only present one wine, this is the wine that we want to present. It's the Secco-Bertani Original Vintage Edition. This is the wine where we try to put inside our history. The two brothers, Cavalier Bertani, the two brothers, Gaetano and Giovanni, when they founded this winery, they founded this winery by a wine. And the wine was the Secco-Bertani. And the reason because the Secco-Bertani name is related to the philosophy. Verona at that time, they were producing only partially sweet wines, 20, 30 grams per liter of residual sugar. They were just wines sold in the local market for trattoria, wine bar, we call osteria. But the two brothers, they say, we need to produce an incredible wine. We need to produce a wine that is able to cross the ocean, and we need to present this wine in the US, all around the world. And so they say the marketing idea was just put the name Secco in the label next to our family name. That was an incredible marketing idea. They were very marketari, as we like to say in Italy. Lovely packaging, since the first vintage, the same packaging. So this was the original packaging. That is the reason because we call original vintage edition. But the second reason, because it is original vintage edition, is just because it is made as in the origin, and it's a perfect replica of the first wine that we produced. It's produced with 85% of Corvina, and the rest of the blend is a mix of Sangiovese, Syrah, and Cabernet Sauvignon. The reason was to match the Valpolicella with something that they brought from France as Syrah, that it's remind a little bit Corvina for the spiciness, for the peppery character, with the Cabernet Sauvignon and a little bit of Sangiovese in order to give a little bit more structure into the wine. And what is also nice about this wine, about this original vintage edition, is how it is aged, this wine. This wine, it is aged also today in the traditional local wood as in the past. As 150 years ago, it is aged in chestnut and cherry wood. 750 liters barrels that we make specific with our cooper, and that is the reason because this wine complex a leafy character on the nose, an incredible cherry profile with spiciness and white pepper that you can find. On the palate, is a little bit more sweet than the Ripasso that you tasted before, not in terms of residual sugar, but the sweetness of the tannins, related also to Syrah, and there is also a tertiary evolution that complex the wine with a little leather character and tobacco, typically of the aging for 24 months in the chestnut and cherry wood. Lovely wine, very classic, a wine that you always recognize. You can not only recognize by the packaging, but you recognize also by the style. It's a wine that is very distinctive. It's one of the most classic, traditional, old-fashioned Italian wines, but again, it is made with the contemporary approach that we have today in Bertani. I want to say something special in the end. Thank you for your attention. For your participation. Do not hesitate to send me any question that you can have, any specific request. We really hope to receive and to guest you here in Bertani in order to understand the passion, the philosophy, and our winemaking approach, and also our hospitality, because this is very important. But I want also to give to you a special thank you. And we wish you for you the best for the future. We cross the finger. We know that it's a difficult moment, but we can only approach the future in a very positive way with a smile and work stronger than before. Ciao e grazie.